6 months into my first year of teaching, I found myself in front of an entire cafeteria full of fourth graders with a microphone in my hand. And to explain why, let me first back up for a minute and introduce myself. I am Roxana Eldon. I work with teachers to help make their day-to-day job more manageable. But today I'm going to discuss an underrated teacher superpower that you may not even realize you have. And I'm going to also share a little bit of a personal story. I recently spoke at an elementary school career day. And if you've ever spoken at an elementary school career day, you know it's very hard to win career day because there's always a ringer in there somewhere. There's always like a mounted police officer that comes in with an actual horse. Or in our case, I'm in Florida, so I was competing with park rangers that brought in a baby alligator from the Everglades and let the kids touch it. So, I had to keep my expectations realistic. But I did have a big personal win on career day, and it happened because of a scheduling glitch. Here's what happened. The people who put together career day are coordinating like 50 different parents to go into different classrooms. So I was told to prepare a 15-minute presentation that I would be giving to 4 different classes. I gave the presentation to the first 3 classes. It went pretty well. And then someone told me for the final presentation, I would be speaking for 30 minutes. So that seemed doable. A student volunteer walks me to my final class of the day. And as soon as I walk in, I realize this class is one of the 3 classes I spoke to earlier that day. Same room, same students who still have my presentation handouts sitting on their desks, and same teacher who was expecting a new presenter. So this teacher and I shared this small, tense moment of eye contact where we both realized something had gone wrong and this is not what was supposed to happen. And I felt her gearing up to kind of laugh it off, send me on my way, and then just figure out what to do with her kids until lunchtime. But it was also clear that, like any teacher who has ever hosted an in-class presentation, she had been looking forward to that 30-minute break when someone else was going to do the heavy instructional lifting. I wanted that for her. And because I had previous teaching experience, I knew I could provide it. I reassured her that there was still plenty of information to discuss from the earlier presentation. And then I improvised a not so bad lesson on the spot. And I do mean not so bad. It was not a killer lesson, but it was a valuable lesson, and it was really not so bad. At the end, I was rewarded with hugs from 3 different 3rd graders, which was adorable. But I walked out of career day with such a sense of satisfaction, and I later realized that it was because I had gotten a chance to flex an underrated educator superpower. Finessing 30 minutes of meaningful-ish content is not a skill that the average person has. There are a few other groups of people out there who can do this. Super Bowl commentators, stand-up comics if they have strong crowd work. A few especially charismatic drunk people can do this, although not nearly the number of drunk people who think they're good at this. But most mortals are terrified of public speaking. So unprepared public speaking for 30 minutes? Forget it. Brand new teachers usually don't have this skill either. In fact, for new teachers, if their lesson plan ends 30 minutes early, that feels like a week and a half in normal people time. That's the rationale behind what I call the flotation device activity in my free school year starter kit, which you'll find linked in the description underneath this video. And one of the things that you'll find in that starter kit is help if your lesson plan ends early, because new teachers don't have this superpower yet. But most teachers with experience can dial up this superpower when they need to. Why? Because even if you're a meticulous lesson planner, you will eventually run into a circumstance that forces you to wing it. And when I say wing it, that doesn't mean that nothing of instructional value is happening. It just means that the teacher is coming up with the lesson as he or she goes along. At its best, this can actually force teachers to get more creative, and it can end up being a very valuable time for the students. But there's another secret that, for good reason, nobody ever tells you in teacher training. The first time you BS your way through 30 minutes of instructional time, it can boost your teaching confidence tremendously. It can even be part of your teacher origin story. And that is how it worked out for me. 6 months into my first year of teaching, I found myself in front of an entire cafeteria full of fourth graders with a microphone in my hand. I was supposed to be proctoring a district-wide test. However, the tests were not in the cafeteria. They were sitting in traffic on the Houston freeway in the back of the testing coordinator's car. And the testing coordinator told someone to tell me that she would be there soon and that I should keep the kids occupied. This could have gone incredibly badly. Luckily, in that moment of desperation, I was somehow able to channel my inner version of my mentor teacher, Brenda Orr. Miss Orr was this instructional wizard who could entrance a crowd of 9 and 10-year-olds with suspensefully presented mental math problems. She'd be like, this is like my best impression of her. She would be like, okay, now multiply the number by 10. Wait, don't say anything out loud. Now take away 1. She would leave these big spaces in between, really drag it out. Okay, now you're gonna double that. Don't say it out loud. And quietly put up your right hand only if you know the answer. Okay, on the count of 3, we're gonna say the answer together. And one of the really magnificent things about watching Miss Orr work is that she could drag out these instructions to complete silence, where the kids were just hanging on her next instruction, even if it was just like add 0 or make sure that you're putting up your right hand. And then they would finally all say the number together. So I did that, and I was probably using Miss Orr's exact intonation. I mean, it was not even me talking. But when the tests finally arrived, the kids were still listening to me and quietly following along as I directed them through mental math. I do want to acknowledge that this whole experience should never have happened. Those tests should have been in the cafeteria on time. That day, I came home so exhausted that I could not do anything but collapse onto my bed. But I also felt the stirring of some previously unknown magic. It was like when a comic book character gets chased off a rooftop and suddenly looks down and realizes she isn't falling. That was the first day that I had just automatically switched into the muscle memory version of teaching. I had relied on an instinct that most people don't have, and it was an instinct that I didn't even realize that I had. And now I was part of a group of people that could do this thing. It is a recognizable skill if you know what to look for. Sometimes out in the world, I'll see someone emceeing a wedding or corralling a crowd at a family reunion. And I will know without a doubt that person is definitely a teacher. And that's how I know that teacher on career day, she really didn't need me to stay. She certainly could have taught a last-minute lesson to her own class if she had to. But I was so glad she didn't have to.